So, hey, thanks for joining us. We want to start, this is about going to be talking about holdout mode, and we really want to engage the community for real in this process of creating this. So this is at the very start, even for us. So for that, then we want to start talking about how we approach design. So we start with goals and constraints. We want this to be a real conversation with you, so we want you to be part of the development. So let's talk about the goals. So why holdout mode? Well, it's social, right? You get a plan together, you execute, and you fail together. You have this setup where you can communicate, discuss plans, learn, and try new things. And so the mode should emphasize working together because that's kind of really the interesting thing here. And then it's accessible, right? You have no complex mechanics, but an extension of what you already know. You can jump in and play with your friends. And it's also a way for us to re-engage with content that we've already created, the maps, in a new way. Now, as a developer, I mean, in theory, I shouldn't say that out loud to the community because that sounds like we're just trying to reuse the old stuff in any way we can. But in reality, is people have favorite maps they like to revisit and they want to come back to. And also, we want you to be part of the developers with us. So I'm going to be honest about why we do this is because we can also reuse assets we've already created that people already appreciate playing in. And then lastly, a variation of the above, the mod tools actively being worked on. Holdout maps are a really easy way for modders to learn the tools, get up and running, and kind of create small, short experiences. And so we really like to have this available for them. And so as the mod tools are going to be coming online soon, we want to have this as a kind of place to catch them. So for constraints, we're saying we can't create any new aliens or maps for this. Now, eventually we will create new maps for this, but to start, the original testing, that's one of the rules. It has to work with the existing tool sets, right? Long term, we'll create additional tools and weapons, and we can talk about some of that here, but we're not going to start there. But let's start with the base game and fun and go from there. So, some questions is what does a win state look like? Hold out for the longest time, survive the most waves. Do you get a score you can compare? Are there leaderboards? Is there a clear way to improve your score? Like those are kind of like we play a lot of these. I see a lot of people on here who I've played holdout modes with here, like from Killing Floor to all these different games have a holdout mode or style in them. From Zen Co-op, we played one, right? Like let's take a look at what we liked about those and what we didn't like about those, and include those into design here. So I'm gonna let Will talk about how we're gonna do this, but I just wanted to give you the setup so that we're all on the same page and have an understanding of how we design internally at Stray Bombay, and want to include you in with it.
Yeah, so we're going to do this a little differently than we did the last one. What we're going to do is I'm going to still screen stuff so people who have ideas can send me send like a one sentence pitch. I don't want like a whole design doc, just like, hey, I think, for example, Benjamin sent, I think this should be wave based. Each wave, end of each wave has a cooldown period where you grab a perk and get a new matter compiler spawn and some random items spawn, which is I think a good place to start with the conversation. So send me a DM. I'll filter when it's time. If you want to talk, I'll invite you to speak. If you don't, you can say no. It's fine. We can just talk. We can just talk about your pitch. I think the so I think this is a good one to start on. Like, how do we think waves should go? Do you think we should be wave based? Do you think we should be one long wave? Chet, what's the do we want to
Well,
dole out
let's.
new perks throughout? Do we want to start with a bunch of perks? How does all this stuff
Can I
go?
invite Benjamin to speak?
Yeah, I'm looking for Benjamin in the list right now.
There, Benjamin, you could speak. I have a question for you. Is this a set of waves that are endless, or is there an end to these waves? You should be able
Benjamin's
to
not
speak
in
now,
here yet. I don't
Benjamin,
think he has
unless you're
to.
muted.
So it's the lower left-hand button
He
on
has
the.
to accept the stage invite.
Yeah, we can't force him to speak if he doesn't want to.
Oh, there we
we
go. Can you hear me now?
There you
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Well, I think the way Killing Floor does it is, I think they've set a very good standard with that. I think it'd be relatively simple to implement. I don't know really about endless versus, having a limit. I suppose it's something to work towards if there is a limit.
Well, because right, most not all of the Killing Floor ones are what, 5 waves and then a boss, right?
Yeah.
And so you would see using like the Mata compilers and kind of loot drops as being their buying system, and then go from there.
Yeah, basically. So it would be kind of roguelite, like like the main game mode is, and then you'd have something to work towards.
Would you expect players to be able to finish each time, or do you think it would be that they end in failure each time?
That's a good question. Well, I would personally have different difficulty modes so that you can really challenge yourself if you want to, or if you just want a more relaxing game where you can finish, you can choose that.
And so, all right, thank you. We're gonna go on to the next question, but that was like a great interaction. And just to be clear on a few things, always just express kind of how you like to play, because that is your point of view, and we try to do that. We often try to avoid making up an audience and trying to go after that, because that's kind of chasing your own tail. So it's always got to be something that you can relate to, and it's also okay to mention other games. Like that's a really quick, easy way to normalize kind of a conversation. Like, that we all have the same reference point then.
And so, Chad, I'm starting to get some DMs. One thing I'm going to suggest is that think about like the thing you said is a good idea. Like if you like things about other games or don't like things about other games, this is a good that is definitely a good framework. For example, I don't like the first boring wave, right? Like when you fail, you just have to keep playing that first boring wave over and over again. Where things are too easy. Okay, this one, we've got a question from a normal username, which is in the Garden Warfare games, Holdout mode or pitch rather. Some waves can have special modifiers applied to them, such as an objective to destroy or a tough loot dropping enemy that distracts the players. Having those sort of modifiers would be nice to break up the relatively simple gameplay loop. And I'm looking. Here we go, inviting them to speak.
So normal username. A quick question on that then is like, what would you see? Just saying that we're not going to add anything new to the game. We will eventually, but for right now, what would be a way that you would think of to break that up?
Maybe you could have something like the alien tech spawns on one side of the map if it's a larger map and you have to bring it over to the other, or just a special brute who you have to kill but will give you drop a bunch of special weapons if you kill him.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And then is that the kind of thing where this would be like, it's okay if you don't do it, or do you have to do it?
I mean, both options work, but I feel like it's better to go with you don't have to do it, but it gives you special rewards which will make surviving the later waves easier.
Okay. Okay, and just curious, your vote on, is this endless waves or does this have an end to it? This is
Either
just to
works.
be clear, this is a question we have internally that we do not have an answer for.
Well, it rarely works either way.
Okay. But do you have a preference?
I feel like both. It really depends on what sort of gameplay loop you're trying to go for. If it's survive through this really rough section and escape, or if it's just go on forever, like Call of Duty Zombies or something.
Well, so this is one of the fun things when you're a game designer is you get this moment where you realize you can do whatever you want. You really can. So you're the game developer right now. You can do whatever you want. Which way do you prefer?
It has an end.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. No, to be clear, it is not a clear answer on that. We have a lot of discussion. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
We're getting a lot of questions in chat. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And Will, I'm surprised that you didn't complain about the fourth wave.
Look, that fourth wave was brutal every time. Like I want to pick at that more. We played the PUBG zombie thing last night. It was interesting. Let's see. Dancing says matter compilers are spawned around the map, but, and I'm going to invite them to speak now. But every matter compiler you pick up will increase the game challenge. However, it will also allow the player to become more powerful. I think this is an interesting idea. I don't think I've seen this in a holdout mode before.
So Danny, you're suggesting then that this would be a wide, like it wouldn't be like in Left 4 Dead we have a very small holdout area, and in Killing Floor 2 you have a very broad area. You go through the whole map. So you're saying you're embracing that kind of broad area map exploration.
Yeah. I've been playing. I was playing a lot of Teardown recently, and they normally have you go across the entire map just collecting like treasure chests. And I thought, how about in like the Anacrusis, you're in a stage and you have to run all the way around the map, pick up map compilers. Every single time you pick up a map compiler, it becomes harder, but you also get more perks on you, so you just become stronger.
Would you also be dropping then like weapons and ammo one time for Left 4 Dead, we did an experiment of if you put a house that was nothing but ammo, and then you did a house that's nothing but health, which house would you hang out in? And it's always you pick the one with ammo.
Not entirely sure. It's entirely dependent on the situation. Maybe have the map compilers as like the finish line goal, but on the way through, there's going to be like special enemies that spawn, that drop like ammo, or special weapons like someone else suggested.
And then I guess one of the questions is, since one of the rules is we can't make new maps for this to start,
Yeah.
would you then be fine going back and forth and covering the same ground and having new things appearing there, or would you want it to be more of a you're continually going to new places?
It's probably going to be a little bit hard for that. I mean, like for the garden level, I know you can backtrack from like one airlock all the way to the other. So it's depending on what level it will be on, really.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Awesome. And I will see you tonight as we are going to try to do the Discord challenge.
Ooh.
Most
Yeah,
skills.
I have found a few things for that, and I think we're going to do
Okay.
quite well on that.
All right. We'll see.
Oh, doing some
Okay,
science. I like it.
nice chatting with you.
Yes.
See you, Danny. Charger has an idea here that I think is interesting. I'm going to invite them up and then read their note. They said before the first wave there would be nothing, and the first wave would be pistol only. Then between each wave there would be a new matter compiler and some supplies, weapons, grenades, heals. Not necessarily enough for everyone though. And if a player dies, they can't be called back during the wave, but are rezzed at the end of the wave. So that is very much like the PUBG thing that they rolled out earlier this week.
So, is that Charger here?
Charger doesn't want to speak because the English is not
okay.
comfortable.
So that's interesting.
That's
I wonder
too.
how people.
Yeah.
I feel like we should make some polls out of this because I wonder how people feel about the can't res during the wave, because that's one of the things I find frustrating with Killing Floor 2. But I think I find it frustrating because you earn money during the wave, and that gives you weapons, and that's how you're able to afford stuff for the next wave. And so then if you don't earn during that wave because you died early, then you're really just penalized, and it kind of starts stacking. Kind of interesting on that though. Yeah, but I do think there is something there of how do you start and build? Like how do you limit the player?
Well, yeah. Like I always wonder, do you want to start just with like, do we want to give them like 4 matter compilers at the beginning so they can kind of power up to a point where you bypass that first wave? Or maybe that first wave is an important thing. Maybe that's where you figure out how the game works and all that. I don't know. Mectroid says, I think there should be some incentive for players to move around beyond the special infected. Whether it's for waves, whether it's the waves or something other than time-based, there's generators or some sort of resource, all a scavenge. I think there should be an appeal. There should be some appeal that is more than just shooting aliens.
So
Yeah.
are you saying actively not shooting or like move around?
No. What I'm saying is, what I was thinking of is the Shiva stacking from Left 4 Dead 1.
Yep.
The kind of joking thing where everyone piles up in one corner and just kind of pounds away at the enemies. Especially since you're not making new maps and the maps that exist already have a lot of closed off rooms and small quarters, I feel like it's going to be really easy for players. The best strategy end up being players hunker down in different areas and just cover their exits, which is fun for a while. But if that is the entirety of the experience, it's going to get stale really fast.
Gotcha.
And I elaborated a bit later that I think one of the interesting things to do maybe between waves is that there is a pretty short time limit between each wave, and all of the supplies any supplies not picked up at the end of the wave despawn and new supplies spawn in different areas, including ammo, pedestals, and matter compilers. So you finish a wave, you get a few seconds of whoof, and then you are frantically exploring and trying to resupply yourself and figure out the best place to hold out in the next wave.
Would you see those being hinted at where they are, or would it have to be quick exploration?
I would say either quick exploration, maybe hint it with like, the matter compiler could have a certain flash of light when it spawns in at the end of the wave, so everyone knows where the matter compiler is. But if you're just looking for ammo, you're gonna have to go somewhere else, right?
So your variation from the other one mentioned was this is more a required thing to go do versus an optional thing, because if you don't have ammo, you're going to die.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
mean, if you're well stocked or well supplied, it just means you can't really camp the ammo spot, and maybe you
Yeah.
don't exactly know where it is. So it's something that has to be done during the fighting if you don't find it in time. Like that matter compiler, you have to get to it within that 30 seconds,
Gotcha.
or, you know, or you're gonna have to do it during the middle of the wave.
Yes. And also, just so everybody knows, like often when I ask questions like this, because I'll do this in our design meetings as well, I'm not saying you're wrong with your thing. I'm just trying to clarify, as there's
Yeah,
often a lot of nuanced texture
yeah,
around
yeah.
these. And
But
I think I always worry when there's nothing worse than starting around with nothing and being like, okay, I'm just going to die. Let's die as quick as we can. But equally, there's something fun about that, those frantic moments leading up to what the round looks like.
and if I may answer one of the questions you've been asking before
Yep.
about whether it should be endless or have like a set end, I think that the big distinction there is having a set end with a reward, even if the reward is a cutscene or maybe something unlockable, is very much an intrinsic or extrinsic motivation that will motivate a certain part of the player base, while intrinsic motivation is like, I think that's part of why scavenge mode kind of fell flat, or the other Left 4 Dead 2 mode, the holdout style mode, wasn't as popular, is because to some people the idea of beating your own high score has no appeal at all. It's all about getting to the end, right? And so having some sort of end is a way to engage more players, I think.
Yeah, so the funny stat there is less than 1% of the play time was on scavenge mode.
Hmm.
About 25 to 30% of the play time was in holdout mode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was more
That's
popular.
a huge discrepancy. Wow.
It's more popular in player minutes than versus.
I used to make maps for Left 4 Dead 2, so I was always interested about that. Thanks.
Yeah, we should have
Good to
shared
know.
that better. So I'm sharing it now. Shh.
Don't. No, boy. I'm
All right,
gonna get an
excellent.
email.
Though. Thank you, and thank you for the clarification.
So we have about 10 minutes left in the time we have scheduled. I think we're getting some good stuff here, so we might go a little bit longer. Atlas, on the idea of ending, I'm going to invite Atlas to speak here while I tell this. By the way, if you want to submit ideas, if you're just joining and you want to submit ideas, just send me a DM. I'm Will. You can right click on me and go to message and send me a note. Atlas says, why not every 10 rounds or so you can choose to end it, resulting in a win rather than having to continue? But it's an option to end it early. And I'd vote no res during wave. All of those things. I like the idea of like risk reward, like a kind of push your luck thing, where you with regard to whether you end it or not, whether you write down your score on the board or you push on and then you have the potential to lose that score. Oh, Atlas can't talk because they're unavailable right now. So
Okay. So yeah, I think that is always interesting as well. And I think so. Stray Ryan here. Ryan is also the person who's working on our metagame. And one of the things we've talked about with that is moving to a more experience-based one versus event-based, because that gives us more leeway of then you could do the thing of, hey, you get 100 points of experience if you end after the 10th round. But if you keep going and get to the 20th round, you'll get 1,000 points of experience. But if you miss, you get 0. Like something like that might be fun, where it's the risks are outside and not so painful, but yet they're fun when you hit them. Yeah.
Sway Jam had an add-on. We find Sway Jam in the chat and add them. I don't see Sway Jam in the chat. Maybe request to speak if you're Sway Jam. There we go. Thank you. Sway Jam said, along with Garden Warfare objective thing mentioned before, Killing Floor 2's endless wave-based survival has an interesting aspect in applying some of the weekly modifiers to further waves at the high end, like 15 levels plus. So as an example, one wave further into our tree might have the modifiers for Oops All Brutes or something like that. That's a neat idea.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the for Killing Floor, I think it's like waves 15, 30 plus, something like that. They take some of their existing weekly aspects, or just any of the modifiers existing in Anacrusis, like Nightmare or stuff like that. That could be applied to further waves to change the experience further on if it is going on like an endless based thing. Still based on waves, but just endless wise.
So curious of one of the things of just there's a conversation this morning about feedback about difficulty in the weekly challenges, and that was a question we had when we were making the weekly challenges: is should these be the place where highly skilled teams go to express that skill, or should it be a place that's just weird variations that everybody gets to experience? And so that's why if you notice, some of them have been different that way, and some of the ones coming up will be even more different that way. So curious of how you feel, like which ones would you want applied? Would you want the ones that always just make it harder or just make it stranger?
Honestly, both. I think a good variation of there, for example, again in Killing Floor, it doesn't always apply like certain set of special infected only rounds. There's certain rounds where it just makes the zombies or Zeds have bobbleheads, and so they are easier to get shot in the head. I think a good combination of maybe even earlier rounds, and the higher rounds. I mean, like 15 plus, you have just more less hard ones that are interesting that change the game's pacing a bit, for variability, and then higher up maybe you can have things like higher special infected spawn rates, things like that.
Yeah, I wonder if you want to have the ones that occasionally just everyone on the team groans when they see it come up of like, oh shit, this is gonna be tough. Yeah, I forgot about the bobbleheads, man. That's playing it last night. Someone suggested tiny brutes, and
That
that
would
made me
be
think
interesting. Yeah.
of that. Yeah, I just want a whole bunch of tiny brutes running around the map.
I remember playing one of the early Gears Horde modes and having like 2 Brumacs come out, and those huge giant dinosaur things with the rockets on the back, and like the whole team just groaned and kind of cried, and then when we beat it, it felt like the best thing in the world. It's such a good feeling.
Oh, so
Yeah,
it's
I think it would definitely add to a nice change of pace during, if it is an endless wave based situation. Going up and then randomly around would just change the gameplay wise. It would result in the team having to strategize differently.
And you actually have another question point, and that's another interesting take is in Zombie Army 4 in the map, in which the map would slowly open up over time, revealing more crucial supplies to search between ways for survivability, special weapons, more grenades, and such. Curious if you ever played the Left 4 Dead 2 Holdout map. Come on, I was talking about this all yesterday, and all of a sudden I can't.
Helm's
It's the
Deep.
Lord of the Rings one.
Yeah, Helm's Deep.
Yeah, Helm's Deep.
I don't think I have. I play for mostly console, only recently getting into PC, so I never had an option to do such like things like that.
Even the console players will have this soon. But the thing there is like you had this, like the very starting point was like, oh my god, we're gonna hang out here forever because there's this endless mounted guns and so many supplies, and then slowly you would just get overrun and you would fall back to another place that you're like, okay, now this one we could hold out forever. And you just keep having this kind of like moment of like we need to retreat. I've always really liked that feel. I thought the designer there did it really well.
Cool.
Yeah, there's definitely not many options like that currently in many holdout based modes.
Well, it also lets you open up new areas, which is interesting for like for actual defense areas, and give better areas as you get into the harder waves and stuff like that. It's really cool. Thank you so much, Soy Jam.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
I'm gonna move on to Steve, who has firm opinions here. 3 waves, a definitive end even. No ammo chargers at all. Only the weapons are scattered around and have to be found. And after a wave, players can have a choice between health or a matter compiler within a short time limit.
That's hardcore mode.
I know, this seems real sweaty.
Hi. I don't know. Yeah, it was. I wasn't entirely sure. I'm actually the kind of person who doesn't like this kind of mode. that much.
Okay, great talking to you, Steve. Thank you for coming by. We'll see.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's the thing. So, of course, like it's neat to see. The reason why is the biggest thing for me, I think, is a definitive end, because endless mode typically when I would play with my friends or something like that, it was usually playing until the game decided we were done, and that never felt particularly fun. At a certain point, it always it would always start too slow and then end too seemingly unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it, like, we're not really that good, but I like the idea. For me, what I was also thinking with no ammo restoring is just give a reason to go out a little bit more instead of just holding up next to an ammo station or something like that. But also have a mode that can be done in like 10 minutes or something like that. I know I don't speak for everyone, obviously, but I usually play with people who have kids and are busy and sometimes don't even have time for a full episode of Inacrucis, which we all love. It's great, fantastic work, amazing game. We're really loving it. But sometimes we only have like 10 or 15 minutes a week or so to play, and just a condensed version of that would be fun. And really the only other game that I can think of which is not fair is Splatoon has a holdout mode, which is really fun. The reason why I say it's not fair is because they have their own set of assets and monsters and stuff like that, and its own progression. But it's done in 3 waves very quickly, and you can punch out or keep going, and it does the difficulty in the background, but it's only a few minutes and it's very accessible, but still has that primary gameplay feel of the main game.
Awesome. Yeah,
Cool.
that length is something we think and talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of the things I'm kind of like one of the things we talk about a lot is whether people want, and this is maybe not necessarily a question for you, Steve, because I think I know where you land. But
Yeah, for sure.
But
And thanks for taking my question, by the way.
of course. Thanks for putting the idea in. Like, how do people feel about breaks and stuff like that? Like, do you feel like you should be able to break after every level? Do you feel like you should break after like one session? Do you feel like you shouldn't be able to break at all and should just never stop? And I'm curious about that. I think we're drying up on ideas. So if anybody else has anything, DM it to me and we'll get it in there. Steve, I'm going to kick you out because you're
Okay. Sounds good.
noising.
Thanks for the feedback.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, you're okay.
Glad you're enjoying it.
Let's see. We have Esker Roots said, "Hi, I think looking up at the game mode Gambit from Destiny 2 could be fun. It's PvPvE. 2 teams on each version of the same map fight waves of enemies, but they acquire shards of light that they can inject into a device that sends additional waves of enemies related to the size of the stack the player uses, up to like 13. So I've played a lot of this. This is a really fun one. So you fight your own hordes. You collect stuff in the hordes. You have to carry it to a thing, and when you do a thing at the thing, then it sends a bunch more bad guys to the other team at the same time. I think that's a cool idea. And let's get Esker Roots. Let me get you in here. I can't find Esker Roots. Definitely helps if people hit the request to talk thing, because people have different names. There we go. Thanks, Esker Roots. Here you go. Oh, you have to hit the move to speakers too. There you go. Welcome, Esker Roots.
Hello. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Nice. Yeah. I didn't thought I was going to speak. I think I was able to give my ID through the text, but yeah. Since Anacrusis is not like PvP oriented, but having the concept of a run through the clock with against another team could be fun, and the first team like to overwhelm with wave of enemies. The opposing team could be fun.
So this isn't you're not shooting at the other team. This is just you're competing against the other team.
Yeah, and like from Left 4 Dead 2, there was kind of this concept only on the PvE side with acquiring a gas canister and injecting it into a car. I find this mode really boring, but having like another team, another like variable that can be modified by the skill of the enemies, the opposing team, it could like bring people together like squad versus squad instead of like the generic going through a campaign and having another team takes the enemy position. Now it's more like being able to manage wave of enemy faster, managing like if you get 3 stack of light, you only send like a spawner, but more close to 10 could send a brood, multiple brood, and things like that.
Gotcha.
I think that sounds fun. We got a couple more here, and then I think maybe we should wrap it up.
Yeah, because we got our own playtest we got to get to.
Dancing says have mutators that acts as a score multiplier. Look, Danny is just fixated on this Discord challenge right now, and is just thinking is score focused. I think.
I just need to. Have I accepted? Am I in chat? Hello.
Yeah, we hear you. You're good.
Hi. Adding on to a point I heard previously. I heard about adding on like special rounds, and I would have thought that. And I just want to quickly say that not everyone would enjoy that. So maybe it will be like an enableable mutator for just for some players. Like some people might want to just have enable a mutator that enables like special rounds or add a special condition every couple of rounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
I think we got time for one more.
I have actually 2 more, if that's okay, because I missed Loco Guy earlier. Let's do Loco Guy first. They said maybe after killing a spawner. How would health drops work? It was the question. Maybe after killing a spawner, it could drop health scanners and boosters. So like drops from enemies rather than drops at the end of the wave or something like that. And let's see. I don't know if they might have. I don't see them in the chat anymore, so they might have.
Drops from enemies is always interesting because it drives you out to go pick them up, and so it puts you in a place of risk to go get the thing that you want.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then let's see. The last one will be Mectroid. Let me get Mectroid back invited. An element of push your luck actually has intriguing implications because it avoids the unfairness of that final endless wave that you lose, that you have to lose by putting the decision on when to stop in the player's hands instead of the game's. That I think that's I like that. I like that a lot. I like push your luck.
That's a good framing. Giving agency to the player at that level is always interesting.
Yeah. Especially if there's I feel like that's more interesting if there's a leaderboard element or something like that, though, right?
Yeah. I was gonna say I think that the only hard part is you've got to have something that you can push your luck on, which means you're trying to either get something that you're permanently unlocking for the next time you run it. Maybe that's how you get the mutators that increase your score multiplier, or outfits, experience for the battle pass, whatever. The only other thing I would say is when I say push your luck, I'm not talking about like the all or nothing kind where you're going until you're you have the chance of getting nothing if you fail. But it's more, hey, you've already locked in 10,000, now you're playing for 15,000, or you can accept. It's what's the game show? Deal or No Deal, basically. So what the game's saying. Yeah.
So what you're saying is we need to get Chet a really long microphone at the end of every round. He needs to say, "Do you want to push your luck?" And then we move on to the next one.
Yeah, kind of.
All right.
But yeah, that was it.
That's all. I think that's
yeah. It's an interesting take. Awesome.
Cool. I think this was awesome. We had a lot of really good ideas and really good feedback from people.
Yes. Yeah, and to the point, just to be clear on this, like this is a conversation, right? This isn't just a one, hey, we're gonna ask you some questions and then go away. We are gonna ask you some questions like we did today. go away, and then we're going to stand up our first idea, right? So we're going to stand up and make available for you the cheapest, easiest thing we can do to start testing, right? Because even in this conversation, right, we had multiple different ideas. And so what that's called is the minimal viable product, or the MVP, right? We start there. It's no longer theoretical. You can push back on it, you can argue about it, but there's something there. For me in design, it's always important to get that stood up first as quick as you can, because then you can just learn all of your ideas then aren't theoretical, they're actually tested on something. So that's what we're going to go off and do. And some of the ideas brought up here will take longer to develop, so they won't be there at the start, but they'll come later. But the core idea of this will kind of behind of what this is will start to take shape, and then we'll grow it from there. So if you don't see what we talked about today, you know, in the first version, that's the reason why. Because we are literally going to stand up the cheapest, easiest thing we can just to get it in the player's hands and start getting that feedback loop. So from all of us, I know I've been doing a lot of talking, but from all of us, we seriously really appreciate you guys coming in and giving the feedback. And like I said, this is gonna be a constant conversation. So you can ping us, you can talk about it in chat, you can hit us up on Twitter, and just keep talking about this. And I really thank you guys all for this. This is, I think, the starting of this Discord channel early, and building the community first was the best idea we had in this whole part of the process. So thank you seriously very much.
Cool. And I think we're gonna put we're gonna recorded this. So if you missed the beginning or whatever, we're probably gonna put it on YouTube later today, if I had to guess. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you all next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks for coming out.